it's Presley at ActOutGames.com here, and today we're doing a Presleys Perspective. So for those of you who don't know what Presleys Perspectives are, because we actually haven't done one like this in quite a while for some reason.
We did Zammy not all that long ago.
Well, yeah, but it feels like it's been a while since we've done one.
All right.
But for those of you who don't know, is my dad has a topic. I have no idea what it is. He talks about it to me, and then we have a conversation about it, basically.
That's about it. Yeah. So today's topic is Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and two things that have been going on with it, right?
Yes.
So first of all, spoilers.
Spoilers.
So this is going to be a very spoilery conversation. If you haven't seen The Force Awakens and you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch this video, right?
And even if you do want to be spoiled, you need to change your mind right now. Don't watch this.
You should go watch the movie because it's really awesome.
Yeah.
But so first, we'll knock one out. That'll be really simple, right? That we both agree on right now is like, I don't know what's going on with Disney and Target. Right?
Yeah.
So first they do like the Princess Leia shirt where they take Leia out and put Luke on it because, God forbid, a boy should look up to a girl action hero. Oh no.
No.
Right? And then now there's a 6-pack of action figures from The Force Awakens, and Rey is not in it.
Why?
And Rey is the main character. Like, how you can't argue that Rey's not the main character of that movie, right? And there are 2 stormtroopers in that 6-pack.
Why are there?
And Rey's not in it.
Well, if there's 2 stormtroopers, it would lead me to believe that one of those stormtroopers is Finn. But there's already a Finn.
No, there's a Finn. It's like a regular stormtrooper and then a commander. I don't even think Phasma is in it or whatever. Whatever the girl stormtrooper commander.
Yeah.
Who I thought was going to be in the movie a lot more.
Yeah, me too.
But that's beside the point. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I like Target as a store because it's real close and they sell a lot of really good stuff. But I'm like borderline not going to Target, right?
Yeah.
Because it just they seem to have very little respect for girls.
Yeah.
Right, and it bugs me. And Disney has to approve of that, a bunch of that stuff too, right? And so that 6-pack of action figures is a Target exclusive too. This is why I say Target, because that's a Target exclusive pack of 6 that somehow doesn't have the main character of the movie. Is not in the top 6 figures that they would put in a pack and sell. It's just really, they seem to just not think very much of little girls.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unfortunate. That bugs me.
Like, first they go gender neutral, and I'm like, yay, Target!
Right.
Target why?
Yeah. So yeah, that's really unfortunate. I just wanted to mention that, right?
Yeah.
But really what I wanted to talk about, which I don't know if you've read any of this yet, but there's a big thing going on the internet right now about Rey being Mary Sue.
Why?
Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
So primarily it's because, of her lightsaber skills at the end of the movie, right? Because she basically, beats Kylo with a lightsaber. And he's been training and sort of knows how to use a lightsaber, and she picks one up for the very first time ever, and she beats Kylo Ren with a lightsaber.
But who's to say that, like, she was on this planet for years and years. Who's to say she hadn't learned, like, something like sword fighting, which would lead up to that?
I'll give you a couple of the arguments, and I'll give you mine. So there's the theory that, like, so she obviously carries that staff around and fights and defends herself with that staff, so she has had this sort of blunt weapon training of some sort. There are theories that she, when she was young, had some Jedi training. Like, I think we'll find out maybe in the next movie who her parents are. And so she probably has some Jedi in her, right? And obviously she does because of her skill with the Force. But, they talk about, like, Anakin in the episode 1, when they find Anakin, they're saying he's too old to begin his Jedi training, right? And he's like 8, right? So she may have had some Jedi training when she was like 4 or 5 and doesn't remember it even. Like, she was having those flashbacks to some of her childhood and stuff, like stuff that was going on, right? So there's some ideas that maybe she had some training early on, right? But I don't even need any of that, right? I'll tell you what my theory is, and then you can tell me what you think, and then we can move on. So I think that whenever you see a Jedi training in Star Wars, right, they're not learning, like, combat techniques. Like, you don't see Luke learning fencing skills, right? What you see Jedi learning how to do is let the Force take over their body, and use the Force and let the Force flow through them and not fight it, right? And let they become a tool of the Force, and the Force guides their body and guides their movements, right? That's why Luke, is training early on when he's on the Millennium Falcon and he has the blaster shield down on his helmet and he can't see and the little balls floating around and shooting lasers. He's trying to block it.
Yeah.
That's not him learning how to use a sword. That's him learning how to trust the Force and let the Force move his lightsaber. Because he can't see.
Yeah.
Right? He's letting the Force control where his lightsaber goes, right? So giving up to the Force and surrendering yourself to the Force is what Jedi training is all about, right? And I learned something a long time ago when I was in college. I used to rock climb a lot, right? And we learned that women tend to be better rock climbers and learn faster than men do because they tend to rely on technique. They learn how to climb correctly and they rely on that technique to climb up the mountain, whereas men tend to sort of try and rely on their strength. And like you want to grab it and use your muscles to pull yourself up the wall, then you wear yourself out and you get tired suddenly. Whereas a woman who's climbing correctly and using her legs more than her arms, for example, will climb better and longer and faster, right? Because they're relying on technique, right?
Yeah.
So I think something very similar to that happened here. Not necessarily the men versus women thing, but I think like she was more adept. Like that scene where she sort of closed her eyes and thought about the Force, and she really surrendered herself to the Force. Like she knew she couldn't win that battle on her own, and so she just let the Force flow into her and flow through her and control her movements. And so the Force beat Kylo Ren.
Yes.
And Kylo Ren was, like the petulant teenager that was having the hissy fits, right? He was getting mad and throwing tantrums and stuff. Like he was trying to control the Force as a tool. He wanted to control the Force rather than letting the Force control him. And that's why, like when he was trying to read her mind and she was resisting him, like the look on his face, like he was so stunned that was happening because this tool that I have isn't working for me, right? And so he was trying to use the Force as a tool, whereas she was letting the Force use her as a tool.
Yeah.
And that's why she won that battle. Because she's more of a natural Jedi who lets the Force control her movements.
Yeah.
Whereas he's trying to dominate the Force. And that may be a light side, dark side thing too, right? She is more pure Jedi because she's willing to just let the Force take over and control her movements, right? And then she's also like, you could see her stealing little bits and pieces from Kylo. Whenever Kylo would try something on her, she would sense it and understand it and then try and use it back. Like when she went back into his head and read his mind a little bit, and then when she used like the Jedi speak to force the guy to leave the room and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's my theory. My theory is that she's not Mary Sue at all.
Yeah.
It's just that
she's a good Jedi.
She's a good Jedi, right? She's naturally, she hasn't learned bad behavior and ego and those kinds of things that keep her from being a good Jedi, whereas he's all ego, and so he can't possibly sort of overcome her natural, and she may even get worse at it, right? She may, as she learns more about the Force, she may decide that it's more of a tool and get more sort of egotistical about it, and she may actually become a worse Jedi than she is right now, because in that moment of desperation she completely surrendered herself to it. So what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts, like, my first thought when I heard that is, like, when I was hearing you talk, is you could use the same counter argument towards Luke. You could say Luke is a Gary Stu. You could say that too.
Right. Well, to be fair though, Luke lost.
Yes.
Right? To Vader.
Yeah.
So he didn't sort of come immediately and he was awesome and he won his first lightsaber battle, right?
Yeah.
And beat Vader at the end of the first movie. Like that didn't happen. So to be fair, he was a worse Jedi than her, right? So and then, but I mean there are lots, obviously, like the fiction. There's a whole other conversation that we won't have right this second, but just to bring it up, the fictional universe is filled with people who have amazing abilities sort of right out of the gate, but most of the time they're men, and so you don't hear a lot of this, a lot of these complaints and a lot of concerns about it. This time it's a girl that has like these super abilities and is excellent at something, and suddenly people are up in arms that the protagonist of a movie is really good at something, right? That's another conversation to be had about the fandom. Like that's not so much about whether she's a Mary Sue or not. It's about whether the fandom can handle a woman being good at something.
Yeah. And kind of like being a Mary Sue isn't just you're really good at one thing. Because that would mean that everyone on this planet is a Mary Sue.
Right.
Because everyone is going to be good at least one thing.
She was good at a lot of stuff, though.
Yeah.
Like, she's a really powerful character, right? And she's really awesome, right? But she's supposed to be, because she's the protagonist of this movie, she's supposed to be a really awesome character, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that I think part of it is that she's a woman and people aren't totally cool with the powerful women, right? And part of it is, she picks up a lightsaber and for the first time she wins. But, like, I think my theory behind why that's possible and why that happened is pretty sound.
Yeah.
Like, I think that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
And I'm totally cool with her being awesome at it, but for those reasons.
As well as Mary Sues are usually, like, typically, like, all of a sudden everyone is like, oh, she's so beautiful and she's so amazing and oh my god, yeah! Well, there are plenty of people in that movie who are like, oh, she's a girl, she probably can't use the Force as well, blah, blah, blah. There are probably plenty of people who do that, who will do that in the movies. And really, Mary Sue is kind of everything, absolutely, positively, everything goes this character's way, and everyone loves them, and everything's
Well,
great.
they did the really cool thing at the beginning, too. I thought when Finn sees her getting ambushed and getting in a fight when they're trying to take BB-8 from her, and so he runs over to try and rescue her, and, like, as he's approaching her, she starts winning the fight. And sort of not only does she win that fight before he can intervene, then she sees him and starts charging him and scares him and he starts running away. Like, I thought that was really funny, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good stuff in the movie. And so, yeah. Today we started having this conversation at work and I was reading some on the internet that there's this big Mary Sue thing going on with Rey. And so part of it bugs me a little bit. Like, the part of it that is just pure, like, sexist is not even worth addressing because you can't really do anything with people who think that way. But the part of people who in the sort of ethos and in the headcanon of Star Wars feel like she shouldn't have been that good with a lightsaber, I just wanted to throw that out there as a valid reason she could be.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, also, like, the whole, like, the Force is, you are the Force's tool is, like, really good. And that's probably, like, the way that the Force does work. But as well as it would not hurt to have to have had previous experience with something like that. Yeah. Because, like, even if you...
like her staff and stuff? Yeah. Even you gotta think on that planet she lived on, she probably fought quite a bit. She had to defend herself against scavengers. And she's out on her own, like, scavenging ships and stuff. She's probably had to use that thing more than once. And she has a little bit of training, I'm sure. Yeah.
As well as, like, if you were to use, like, because she was so good as, she could have, like, because Luke wasn't as good as it, first of all, he'd need more training, really. Yeah. But even if he had more training, it definitely would have helped to have had him, like, had prior experience with sword fighting or something like that.
Probably so. Yeah.
Like, that could be another reason as, like, that could help, and then having experience with something, like, to fight with.
And just not being egotistical, I think is...
would come together and be like...
Yeah. And one thing I never understood, and I always thought that lightsabers were, like, Force activated. Like, you used the Force to turn them on.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, clearly that's not the case. Because even, there were instances where other people who are clearly not Jedi have used them before.
Yeah.
It just seems like if you're going to make that kind of a weapon and it's a Jedi weapon, like, why not have the on switch inside of it? You have to use the Force to turn it on.
Yeah.
Instead of just having a button where anybody can pick it up and use it. Because, we saw, I think Han used it in one case and Finn used it in this movie and stuff like that. So that's just a weird aside. I always thought that lightsabers should be Force activated.
I mean, if you really felt that they should be, there could be reasons as to why.
And Luke turned it on, like when he first found it at Ben's place in A New Hope, right? He was able to turn it, like he wasn't using the Force to do that. I don't know, it just seems silly to me that it's not Force activated.
I mean, it really could, if you, like, it seems like it should be, but there could also be reasons, like, with Han, like, he could probably have been around a lot of people with that kind of stuff, and he could have kind of seen a little bit, and it could have been activated by others,
I tried to hold on to that theory for a long time, but it falls apart. Too many people have used them that don't know how to use the Force, right? Yeah. And Han didn't even believe in the Force at the time, right? Really, he didn't. So that was not a good thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there, right? I see a lot of people talking about the Mary Sue angle, and I wanted to throw out a really, I think, a plausible theory as to why she was really good at it.
Yeah.
And why she may even be worse at it in the next movie.
Yeah.
But as she starts to get a little more ego about it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So, thank you for watching, and as tomorrow. Bye!
Bye, guys. Was that geeky enough for you?